Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the Balanced Scorecard, just in general, but also in CapSim. First, what is a Balanced Scorecard? Um, Generally speaking, these are used by boards of directors, or BOD as I refer to it here, in the real world, in real world companies, to communicate priorities to their senior management. And so, in addition to profits, a lot of time boards um, care about other things rather than short term profits. Now, those may be things that they think will, in the long term, make the company more profitable as well. But they can also be other focuses. And so the boards of directors spend time, they hire consultants, they do all sorts of things in order to develop a list of priorities and then measures for those priorities, and then sort of a weighting of those that they could combine into a scorecard. And then they can use those to both communicate and assess their senior executive teams. So at the end of each year or quarter or however often, they will look at the performance metrics of the company. They will map it up against the scorecard, get a score, and basically be able to say to their executive team, here's how you're doing on the scorecard. We either got better, you got worse, you got better in some areas but worse in others. They might use those for bonus, promotion, termination even. Most scorecards include an element related to profitability and share price, but they can have other categories of things as well. For example, operational efficiency. Are you running the company in an efficient manner? Are you getting good results out of your asset investments, so forth? Are your customers happy? Are your employees happy? Are you doing good, sustainable things that are environmentally friendly? So those are all examples. There can be more. So let's talk real quick in CapSim about where it is. I'm going to drag this over for you. Let me do that. Drag this over so that we can see it, and I'll make that a little bit bigger. So in CapSim, of course, when you go in and you log into the dashboard, you see whatever you see, right? Mine looks like this for the company I'm working in. But you would basically go to the reports, debrief reports, I think. Yeah, and Balanced Scorecard. And you can see your Balanced Scorecard score. So you click on that, and it will show you the four categories in CapSim: financial, internal business process, customer, learning, and growth. It'll also show you what score you got. So I got a 7.7 out of 8 possible points on stock price as an example, but I didn't get anything on profits. There are things like employee turnover rate, didn't do very good on that, customer awareness. And then you can click on one of these. So let's just look at contribution margin here. And it will actually show you, here's what contribution margin means. And if you have a contribution margin greater than this, in this case, you get full credit. If it's in this middle range, you get partial credit, sort of scaling up the closer you get to 36%. And so then if you're below 27% or 27% or below, you get nothing. So CapSim does kind of give you all of that information. Now that's an example of a criteria where the better you do, they like that. Let's look at plant utilization, a little bit different. See, the shape is there's a range where you're going to get full points. If you're too high or too low, you're going to lose points. And so it'll be represented more this way. So basically, you can go look at your Balanced Scorecard. You can see what it's made up of. You can see the individual items and how you scored on it. And you can click on those items and see what you would need to do in order to get the full points. Now that's for a standard scorecard. There's also this recap scorecard. I'm going to show this to you. The recap scorecard, honestly, I wouldn't worry about in the first couple of rounds, but basically it is sort of keeps a cumulative tracking of how you're doing on some different metrics. So where's your market capitalization? Where's your sales? Where are you in terms of emergency loans? So if you have an emergency loan, that's bad. Obviously, if you have some emergency loan, but it's small relative to your total assets, then you'll still get some of the points. If it's more than 1% of your total assets, is what that's basically saying, you don't get any points. Operating profit, customer survey scores, market share, all those sorts of things. But again, that they're looking as averages or cumulatives over time, over the entire 8 rounds. And so at the end of this, you don't get 8 different recap scores. You just get the one you wind up with the end. So generally speaking, it's hard to do much to influence recap score in the early rounds, but you really need to start paying attention to it as you go later on. Okay. So we'll get out of here and kind of return to the PowerPoint real quick. Oh, sorry, I meant to show you also where's the Proforma scorecard. So when you back out to it, back to the dashboard, when you go in to make your decisions, there is a Proforma Balanced Scorecard. If you look under Proformas, you'll see that choice. All right. And it contains all the same stuff as the standard scorecard, and it also has the recap scorecard at the bottom, right? And so you can also go look at that, and it'll explain what those things are. You can get view on that, and it'll tell you how your scoring is. On some of these, the ranges change from round to round. So for example, there's a range in a particular round for stock price, but that range will change as the rounds go forward. Now, the difference between a Proforma scorecard and the ones that you get after the rounds are, this is basically saying, if you sell the amount of stuff that you forecast that you're going to sell over in marketing, then, and you do make all of the other decisions that you've made that are basically driving cost and profitability, then this is what you could expect to make in terms of your scorecard. And so, you know, if you're working on doing something to improve a scorecard from round to round, then you always want to check on this. The one thing you don't want to do, though, is you don't want to go in and say, oh, that's just too low, let me up my forecast. Your forecast should be a good estimator of what you think you're going to sell based on, you know, whatever decisions you've made. If you say, well, I'm going to have to make a different decision, and I think that will lead to either more or less sales, then you want to make sure that you make that forecast adjustment as well before you come look at your scorecard. So key thing really from this is that you can get all the same information about what you need to do before a round processes in order to get a desirable scorecard, but it is driven off of the forecast. All right. So here's some sort of good advice. You should always look at these little things, you know, how to think about that. But that's the bottom line. There are pro forma financial statements as well if you want to go in and say, oh, my scorecard's giving me a this on some financial something, so let me go see if I can figure out why. So, you know, similarly, there's a bunch of ratios calculated. So you could go, for example, and say, oh, well, my pro forma is saying that on leverage, I'm not going to do very good. So let me go into my pro forma ratios and look at my leverage. Here it is. And it shows me with a leverage of 40.6. So I go back and look at my scorecard, and it says, well, on leverage, you really need to be somewhere between a 1.8 and a 2.8. Get full credit, up to a 4 to get some credit. Above 4, I'm at 40. So in that case, I got to make some big changes in order to get myself in line. And again, there are other places that you can look for different of these other things on the pro formas. So generally speaking, you ought to be able to find most of what it is that you need to know about why your pro forma values are what they are from these pro formas. Anyway, so get that out of the way now. I'm going to go back over to this. So, how do we use Proformas or balanced scorecards in the course? During your practice rounds, I'm going to track how you do performance-wise on the basis of the scorecard. I'll share that during class. Your name won't be on it, but you'll be able to tell which is yours, but not necessarily everybody else will know who's you. And I may ask you to comment on um, what inside of your scorecard, what particular element on your scorecard you were really focused on, or that you feel like drove your scorecard results. Key thing is that in the practice rounds, so both simulations, both sets of 8 rounds, you're not going to be scored on the actual number on the scorecard. You're just going to be, I'm going to assess your preparedness for the class by you being able to discuss your scorecard and discuss what you're focused on and how you're trying to make your scorecard better. When we get to the competition round, your score is only going to be based on, well, I shouldn't say only because you do have a presentation part, but it's going to be the competition itself portion is only based on your balanced scorecard results. And so I don't take consideration of, oh, he can explain it well. So I would sum up your score across the 8 rounds plus your score on the recap, right? And I would do that for everybody in the semester, so in both sections. And the person that has the highest sum, they get 100. Everybody else gets a score that is proportionate to that highest score in our class. So you're not competing against the world in terms of your performance on the competition rounds and the grade you get. You're competing against the class. You need to finish at the top, right, or near the top. Now, last place the scorecard is relevant is in the CapSim exam. That exam, which is an online exam at the end of the semester, has 2 parts, a question-based part and a 4-round simulation component. It is a different industry. There's some different rules about it. You'll have to learn those as part of the simulation process in the CapSim. But they do report a balanced scorecard, and it only lasts 4 rounds, and your score is determined by the total results over the 4 rounds. And so, again, you'll want to go familiarize yourself right away when you get into the CapSim with what their balanced scorecard is and how they score you, and make sure that you understand how all that works. Few tips for success in terms of managing to balance scorecards. Again, remember, this is not just a CapSim thing. This is a real world thing. If you've become an executive in a company, you're going to be managing to scorecards as well. They just happen to come from their board of directors, not from a simulation. But what I would say is, in our case, probably don't worry about the recap scorecard until round 4 later, maybe round 3. In the real world, you always have to worry about all of that. Quite frankly, in the real world, there isn't a recap scorecard. There's just a running scorecard. You want to focus first on profit and cash adequacy. No matter what you do in the other categories, if you are running a loss or you run out of cash, you can't recover from that. And it affects so many of the categories that are in the scorecard that you really need to focus on that. So I would say first make sure that you're running a profit. Even if it's a small profit, you shouldn't lose money in the first, at first. And that's sort of the art of the management here. Quite frankly, if you sat down and you said, well, to put myself in the best competitive position, I need to do all these things. However, doing all these things costs more than I can afford, and I may not generate enough operating cash from doing all of them in the short term to pay for them, because it's going to take a little while for them to take effect and really start helping my sales. And you think, well, that's how I should go about this. Then you're not really thinking like a CEO. Okay, if competition and success were as simple as just saying, go do all the right things all the time, everybody'd be successful. The real thing here is that you have to balance between all the things that you need to do and your scorecard. All right, So you need to do the things that you can afford to do given how they will affect your scorecard. And you need to have a plan for how you will, over time, get your scorecard to the level that you want it to be at, um, rather than putting yourself in the hole at the beginning. Because if you put yourself in the hole at the beginning, it's not just about your scorecard. Um, you're going to find it hard to raise the money to do anything in the future, and you're just going to put yourself in a box. Uh, Next, determine what scorecard items you can impact in a round. In some rounds, there are things that are on the scorecard and you're being scored against that, quite frankly, there's almost nothing, no decision you can take in that round that's going to change them. Um, the sooner you figure out what those are, the sooner you can just relax and focus on the ones you can change. Again, this is a competition. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be better than everybody else. If you can't impact them, other people can't impact them either. And so you're not really competing with them on those items because neither of you can have an influence on them. You're competing on the other items. Focus on the items you're really competing with them on. Focus on items that have the most points to gain, and you've already got 8 of them. You only have 1 point to gain. All right. So I would focus on, instead, if there's something that's worth 9 points and I don't have any of them, I'd focus on that because I have 9 points to gain. Also, you're going to find that there are trade-offs and sweet spots, if you will, between some of these metrics. And so the one I always think in terms of is you have a metric related to stockout costs, and you also have a metric related to inventory carry cost. Well, you get charged stockout costs if you have too little inventory, and therefore you miss out on sales. You get dinged on inventory carry cost if you have too much inventory, it doesn't sell, and you got to carry it over into the next year. And so obviously there's only a narrow range in there where you could max out both of those points, and you need to start thinking in terms of what that is. Since those two combined are 10 points out of your balanced scorecard, finding that balance is important. Similarly, what you do in terms of inventory can affect your days of working capital. And so, that's another 5 points. And all of a sudden your inventory has turned into 15 points out of your overall. If you carry too much inventory, you get charged an inventory carry cost, which cuts into your profits. And so that can affect your profitability, which affects your stock price. And so that's another 17 points. So that's basically a third of all of your points right there tied to inventory. So getting good at managing your inventory is obviously very important. Last point, by the last 3 rounds, you should find yourself in a position where you're sort of you're doing well across all of your balanced scorecard metrics, and really you're just in a position of kind of picking some of them each round and saying, what can I do to bump that one up a little bit more, or that one up a little bit more. And so, in the first 5 rounds, you're moving things up, as you can, and so you're learning how to hit the sweet spots and so forth across several metrics. I forget how many there are here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So there's 18 basic ones, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 recap ones. So you got 27 metrics that you're concerned with here. And so, you got to think in terms of that in each round of the practice rounds, the first set of rounds, that you're going to be focusing on sort of learning, call it, how to do better on 3 or 4 of these. And by the time you get to, say, round 5 or 6, you're gonna be hopefully doing well on most of them and just being able to tweak it. And then, of course, you'll go to the next practice simulation, the second simulation, and you'll already know that about a lot of them, and then you'll have the opportunity to sort of start out well on more of them and tweak some of the remaining ones. So, just do think in terms of that all told, you have 16 rounds to sort of get your plan, understand these balanced scorecard metrics and get your plan for what you can do move them over time where you want to get them. That's all I got on that today. Hopefully that's useful.